You know, we always wonder about what are the best TV anthology shows of all time or syndicated sports packages. Well, to me, it's got to be this. I would consider this a top 10 TV show of all time in North America, maybe number 5 for syndication. We as kids in the mid 1970s became better fans of baseball because of this, because we wouldn't see all the Major League Baseball games. We'd see the Expos and the Blue Jays, and sometimes the French channel would show the game of the week on Saturday. But the syndicated This Week in Baseball, which was produced by Major League Baseball, ranks to me as one of the most important historical syndicated programs of all time, because it literally was that week in baseball. Now, it focused again on Major League Baseball highlights, and there was a lot. The show debuted in 1977, went in first round of syndication until 1998. But put this in perspective, 1977, you had the Dodgers, you had the Yankees, you had the Expos, the new Blue Jays, Seattle Mariners, Baltimore were strong, the Phillies were strong, Pirates, the Cardinals. The A's were trying to rebuild under Billy Martin and Ricky Henderson. You had the San Diego Padres with Dave Winfield. You had the colorful jerseys. You had Houston, Nolan Ryan. It was just a glorious time. And like I said, between 1977 and about 1987 is probably the last great classic era of baseball. Now, it was broadcast weekly during baseball season, and its second incarnation prior to marquee Major League Baseball games and during rain delays. Again, the program featured highlights of recent games, interviews with players, and other regular features. The popularity of the program, best known for its original host, the incomparable New York Yankees play-by-play commentator Mel Allen, also helped to influence the creation of other sports highlight programs, including TSN and ESPN's SportsCenter. Now, the intro music is classic. It's called what's it called here? Excuse me, Jet Set. And da 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 da, and then at the end it was called Gathering. And you know, it really, I was a young baseball player in the early 80s, and it would get me fired up. I wanted to play ball because I wanted to be on twib in my own mind, to make the big play or to steal second base in a slow motion, the dart like Pete Rose, the flying slide, or the big catch by Dave Parker, or the throw from the outfield like Gary Carter. Now, when Commissioner Bowie Kuhn first took office in 1969, the only weekly showcase case of Major League Baseball, again, was the Saturday afternoon game of the week at NBC. On the other hand, the NFL had produced its own syndicated highlight programs, like This Week in Pro Football, run by NFL Films, who actually did out-of-house events like the Stanley Cup and other sports. Now, in response to its competition, This Week in Baseball premiered its first-run syndication in 1977. Now, again, Mel Allen was the big host, and he used alliteration and an affectionate and attacking way to bring the big bats of baseball under the banner of, everybody. Now, the program was typically picked up by stations who had television rights to Major League Baseball franchises, like, I think it was CBC or CTV in Canada, WTBS in Atlanta, KTTV in Los Angeles, and of course Superstation WGN in Chicago. TWIB would also air on owned and operated NBC stations as a prelude of sorts to NBC's Game of the Week. Now, according to Kurt Smith's biography of Mel Allen entitled The Voice, Mel Allen's Untold Story, when NBC lost the rights to the Game of the Week to CBS, who, unlike the NBC, didn't broadcast regular season games for all 26 weeks of the season, after the '89 campaign, TWIB, silent as a strong anchor, proceeded to either lose markets or move to weaker, often independent stations. Even more so, TWIB, now under the CBS umbrella, averaging a 1-2 rating in several places, aired at midnight, as opposed to, for example, WNBC New York at 1:30 p.m. In this case, however, TWIB moved to WWOR, which had the rights to New York Mets at the time, and aired on Sunday afternoons as the Mets lead-in for the game telecast. In 1996, Mel Allen died. Now, Warner Fussell, who had previously contributed to TWIB Notes and TWIB Ticker segments, as well as substituting for Allen frequently in later years and filled in for Allen when needed, took over for the remainder of the season. In '97, the recently retired Ozzie Smith became the new permanent host, with Fussell serving as the show's announcer and main contributor. TWIB had pretty much moved to being more of a cable syndicated show, as in Detroit, for instance, it was shown on PASS, which is, of course, the Pro-Am sports system. By this time, however, Twib appeared to run its course, and the 98 season proved to be the last of the original series. Now, Fox Sports decided to cancel its young viewer-centered baseball series in its own. Fox has answered in by NBA's Inside Stuff in favor of reviving Twib. While the show was much more feature-driven than it had been before and was still targeted at the younger audience, the show retained some of the older features, such as Plays of the Week and the same opening and closing themes. Kane Brainard hosted and narrated the new series. For much of the show's run, a claymation version of Mel Allen introduced and closed the show. Although all other children's programming was cancelled by Fox on December 28, 2008, Twib was retained at least for the 2009 season, airing for the first time in high def. It also aired on the MLB network. By the 2011 season, Twib's ratings declined as a result of such shows as ESPN's Baseball Tonight and SportsCenter, which showed baseball highlights daily. The rise of the internet and the MLB network also sealed Twib's fate. In 2012, Fox canceled Twib and replaced it with a new baseball-oriented show, MLB Player Poll. Now, the show also aired on regional sports networks around the country, again on Rogers Sportsnet in Canada in a second incarnation, and was also often played as part of the pregame and entertainment on the TV screens of major league stadiums. From 2004 to 2005, segments of the show were hosted by the U.S. fast-pitch softball sensation Jenny Finch. In 2007, Twib was slated for 26 episodes, running from April to the end of September, focusing on stories of various clubs and different baseball themes each week. The segment Front Row Fan features celebrities reminiscing about their favorite baseball memories. Guests included Tom Hanks, Bernie Mac, Alyssa Milano, and Kevin James. There was also a Play of the Week session and Twibia, in which a trivia question is asked before the commercial break. Now, highlights of the past week's action are used less frequently in this format, except for a closing highlight reel to popular songs. The highlight reel was named How About That, in reference to Mel Allen's well-known catchphrase. Video was gathered from each of the 30 club stadium loggers who compiled highlights of each game and sent them to Major League Productions in Secaucus, New York. The program also used educational segments to help it qualify for EI status in the United States. Now, reruns of the Mel Allen hosting stint aired on ESPN Classic in the 2000s and Fox Sports 1 in 2020, when the Major League Baseball season was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, numerous YouTubes of public domain Twibs are available on the internet. I say check them out. I think the most interesting one, when Pete Rose became a Montreal Expo, has to be seen to be believed. Now, the opening team music to Twib is Jet Set, composed by Mike Vickers, a former member of the original Manford Man Band. Now, Jet Set was first used as a theme for the original 74-75 version of the game show Jackpot. When Fox brought Twib back, a slightly revamped version of Jet Set was written. The closing theme to the show is Gathering Crowds, composed by John Scott. It is typically played over a montage of baseball's greatest moments, building to crescendo with a punctuated three-note chord as the MLB logo slides into view. The piece has also been utilized for some effects montages and credits at the end, for example, of local TV newscasts. Now, This Week in Baseball, again, was one of the first weekly highlight shows of its kind. Soon, Warner Wolf and later ESPN would use the impact of that show for their nightly baseball highlights. In 2021, MLB Network's show Play Ball began doing a segment called This Week in Play Ball in honor of the legacy of the great weekly baseball show. Now, the big stations that carried it were Archer Lodge, Atlanta, Baltimore, Bangor, that's where we saw it in New Brunswick, Birmingham, Boston, Buffalo, Carthage, Casper, Chicago, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbia, Columbus, Georgia, Columbus, Ohio, Cordell, Dallas, Dayton, Davenport, Detroit, Florence, Fort Worth, Greenville, Hartford, Houston, Huntington, Kansas City, Lancaster, LA, Minneapolis, New Britain, New York, Oklahoma City, Onondaga, Philadelphia, Portland, not sure which Portland, could be Portland, Maine, Providence, Rapid City, Richmond, Rochester, Sacramento, and again, St. John, New Brunswick, CKLT, which was CTV for a while, Salt Lake City, San Diego, San Francisco, Scranton, Secaucus, Seattle, St. Louis, St. Petersburg, Terre Haute, Valdosta, Washington, Waterbury, and of course Wheeling. I would say most people of my age group, between 50 and 60, missed the show like a fat man misses TV dinners from the 70s. You'd sit that, and the show would go so fast, and you would hear Mel Allen talk about some of the up-and-coming players and franchises and give them the best highlights. He could make a 202 hitter, and he's done that. Make it look like an all-star. But we get this what we had, ladies and gentlemen. Rod Carew, Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt, Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, Eddie Murray. You had Nolan Ryan, Dave Kingman, Don Baylor, Vida Blue, endless type of players. Dale Murphy. It was an era where the pitchers were dangerous, but the hitters were more dangerous. But This Week in Baseball is a time capsule. You ever watch it? The 2021 baseball, the closest thing that comes to the Twib type of feeling is the Blue Jays, because that's all of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, back then, can you believe this? These Major League Baseball teams had fans all across the United States. I kid you not. Oakland, Baltimore, Chicago, both Chicago's. Chicago Cubs had tons of fans. See, national teams were more of a format in the 1970s. And in 2021, with the monetary free agency and the diluting of talent, we knew every player on every team, and even the minor players we knew, like Bavacqua and Belanger and Bob Bailey and players like that, Roy Howell and all that. But the thing is, we knew a player made it when Mel Allen would give him a little feature. And I do remember the first time I saw Ricky Anderson, and Mel Allen said, "The future Hall of Famer that will change the records. Just listen to me, he'll tell you." So it was pretty weird. But Mel Allen wasn't my favorite announcer because, I'm a Don Chevrolet, Don Whitman, Danny Gallivan, Bob Cole guy, being Canadian. But This Week in Baseball, holy frig, ladies and gentlemen. Get a bag of chips and a bottle of pop and watch that. Because the first time we saw certain players were on This Week in Baseball. And it's like, the first time you see a beautiful girl, and the face will stick with you no matter if you're 16 or 66. The little girl with the curls there, as we say. That's what This Week in Baseball with. I fell in love with that show in 1977, and here I am, 44 years later, finally doing a feature on it. Pretty bizarre. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing, we're a Vintage Sports File podcast. Give us a like, comment, or subscribe. If you have a This Week in Baseball memory, let us know. And don't forget, you're only good at your last game. Look at Toronto and Boston tonight. Toronto got a game of shit kicking. And Boston better watch out, because the kids are coming. The Latino kids are coming. And Dante and Grichek and all that. Have a good one. Bye.